Jai Hind everyone. Myself Inderjeet Kaur, Professor in Department of Computer Science and Engineering at Ajay Kumar Garg Engineering College, Ghaziabad. I welcome you all to the online series of lectures for human-computer interface, and today we will be covering that the topic is GUI versus web user interface. How important this topic is, we will see. Today everybody is using net, and without GUI it is not possible to become very easy life. It gives us very easy life. So in this lecture we will be starting from the web user interface, then what is the popularity behind web user interface, then the main characteristics of web user interface, then we will be differentiating among GUI and web user interface, and what are the different principles of web user interface. So starting from the introduction, what is web user interface? That is, it is accepting the input what we are giving, and it is giving us the output by generating the different web pages that are transmitted via the internet and that are viewed by the different user using any kind of web browser program. That is the very simple and basic definition of web user interface. We are giving some kind of input, we are writing something, and it is producing some output in the form of web page, and the different users are using it in a any kind of browser program. So the expansion of www, it happened from the 1990s, and it was a very amazing. Today it has gained so much of popularity, and once simply a communication medium for the scientist, researcher in every field, it has spread deeply into business, organizations and homes even around the world. So unlike earlier we were giving the input on a text based, and now we are using the GUI systems. These GUI systems that were being developed and nurtured in various organizations, data processing is being done nowadays, and then information systems groups, and then the web routes, they were being shown in a market driven societies, giving the convenience and various kind of information to the user. Then web interface design, it is essentially the design of navigation, and it is just a presentation of our information in various ways. So I can say it is just about how to present our content, not the data. Then we want a interface, proper interface design. It is largely a matter of doing the properly balancing the structure and the various kind of relationships of menus, we can say content and other linked document or graphics. The major goal is to build a hierarchy of menus and pages that seems to be very natural. Then I can say that the web is a navigation environment where we persons, they move between the moves between different kind of information. It is not an application environment, and it is also giving us graphically rich environment. In different web pages we can insert different kind of animations, etc. So web interface design, it is difficult for number of reasons. First reason, we can say what kind of design language such as HTML, it was never intended for creating the scenes that are to be used by the general purpose. Then the scope of users was expected to be technical, and now HTML, it was limited, very limited in dealing with different objects and interaction styles, and it doesn't provide a means of presenting the information in a effective way to the users. Then what comes next? Next is the browser navigation retreated the pre-GUI era. Now this was being characterized by a command. We were giving a command, and GUI actions we were the users were able to see. So whose content had to be learned, and a navigational organization and structure that lay hidden beneath a most dark and blank screen. Then GUI, it eliminated the absolute necessity for a command field providing menus that are very related to the task and current contextual situation. Then browser navigation, it is mostly confined to be a back or move forward concept, so that the different pages, they can be stored into the cache memory, but when we are pressing back to or where or forward where, it is often unremembered or unknown sometimes. Then web user interface design, it is also more difficult because there were some issues. The main issues was the concern information architecture and the task flow. What will be the information flow in that? Neither of which was being able to do some or apply some standard procedures on that. Then it was very difficult because of the availability of various types of multimedia and design at that time, that can make it very simple. Then it was very difficult because users, they were not so predefined, and the users tools were also not stable in the market at that time. And then the ultimate goal of web, it feels very natural, it is a well structured and it is easy to use, that will reach the fruition. Then starting, when does internet started? We started in 1945 with hypertext concept that was being presented by Vannevar Bush. Then in 1960, by team of leader of MIT, they proposed a global network of computers. Then in 1962, ARPANET came into the picture with giving a design and development on network, focusing on majorly network. Then in 1969, ARPANET, they brought online and they connected the computers of 4 major universities and additional universities and research that were to make a larger group of network. Then in the 1973, ARPANET, it moves to the international. Then in 1974, Bolt and et al, they released the Telnet. It was the first commercial version of ARPANET, we can say. And then in 1976, University of Vermont, they promises the released. The first hypertext system, it was being released to the user community. Then in 1982, the team Internet came into the picture, and in 1983, TCP/IP architecture, and now it is being universally adopted. Then in 1988, Apple HyperCard released, and it resends the hypertext idea to a wider audience. Then in 1989, a team of Tim and al, it was a European laboratory for particle physics. They proposed a new protocol for distributing the information that was being using the hypertext. Then in 1990, HTML was being created. It was used in conjunction with Berners-Lee protocol, and now our ARPANET, it was decommissioned. Then in 1991, another HTML code was being released on the internet by Tim Berners' team. And Berners' work, it is being credited with hatching the www. Then Gopher also developed at the University of Minnesota, and it was really a friendly interface being provided to the different users. Then in 1992, Delphi was being released to provide the commercial online internet access to the subscribers. Then in 1994, Netscape Navigator first version was being released. World Wide Web Consortium, they have founded it, and then they started using it. In 1995, Microsoft Internet Explorer version first and second came into the picture, and then now we can see there are Edge, Chrome, Mozilla, several kind of web browsers residing in the market, and they are being heavily used by every user. Now the popularity of the web, while the introduction of graphical user interface, it revolutionized the user interface, the web has also become very useful. It allows the millions of people that was being they were being scattered across the globe, and they wanted to communicate, to give the access information, publish and to herd. Then it allows the people to control much of the display and rendering of web pages. Then aspects such as typography and colors that can be changed, graphics can be turned off or on, decisions can be made whether or not to transmit the certain data on the secure channels, and whether to accept or refuse cookies that were being provided on different browsers. Then the web usage, it has reflected this popularity, and the number of internet hosts, it has been raised dramatically. I can say the data that we have found on internet in 1984, the host online, they exceeded only 1000, but in 1987 it was around 10,000. Then in 1989 it suddenly grew 1993 lakhs, and in 1992 it exceeded 1 million. So we can see the exponential growth being rising, the persons surfing the internet. Then the commercialization of internet, they have saw even greater expansion of the growth rate. 1993 the internet traffic was expanding at this rate, 3,41,634% annual growth rate. And then in 1996 it was around 10 million host line and 40 millions connected people. Then user control, it has also been decided some kind of disadvantages for some www owners as well. Then users, they have become much more disconcerting about the good design. We can say slow download times, confusing navigation, confusing page organization, disturbing animation or other undesirable site features, they results in user abandonment of the site for others. People, they are quick to vote with their mouse, and these warnings, they should not go unheeded. Then moving on to the characteristics of web interface. We can say web interface, it possesses a number of characteristics. Some are similar to GUI that has already been discussed, and some are being different. So in the following slides, many of these specific commonalities and differences we will be examining, and the different characteristics of the printed page design and web page design we will be comparing. Graphical versus web user interface, they do have, we can see some features, they are very common and some are very different. Both are software designs, GUI as well as the web interface design, they both are kind of a software design. They both are being used by people, they are interactive and they are heavily visual experiences presenting through screens. They are composed of many similar components, significant differences somewhere exist, and the following slides, they will tell us the differences. So this is how we are registering our information, and it is seeing the GUI. If we see starting from the, these are the various parameters. First parameter is device. GUI, user hardware variations are limited, and user hardware characteristics are well defined. Screens is very well specified, whereas in the web, user hardware variations, they are very enormous, and screen appearance, it is influenced by the hardware, the kind of monitor we are using. Then moving on to the user focus, GUI majorly focuses on data and applications, and web, it gives us the information and navigation flow. Then the kind of data and information is our next parameter. When we are using the GUI, they are being typically created and used by known and trusted resources, and they are very well known. And moving on to the web, it is full of unknown content. Source is always not trusted. There are some secure sites and some are unsecure sites also. Often that is not placed onto the web by the users or known organizations. Privacy is the often most suspected task in this web. Then user task. User, they install, they configure, they personalize the things that they are initializing. They open, they use and they close the data files, and it takes sometimes long times within an application. Sometimes they are very familiar, sometimes they are not. And moving on to the web, so, there are certain links to the site. We can browse, we can read, we can download. There is it is giving us the movement between different pages. And when moving on to the user's conceptual space, it is controlled and constrained by the program, and here it is infinite and generally unorganized. Then presentation elements, windows, menus, controls, data, toolbars, these are the components what we are using GUI. And here the two components, one is our browser and another is page. Within page there can be any combination of text, image, audio, video, animation, and it cannot be presented as it is being specified by the designer. And it gives us the little standardization. Then navigation, using GUI, the navigation can be through menus, list, trees, dialog, wizards, and through web it is through links, through bookmarks, through typed URLs. We can provide certain constraints also. Then context. Context means it enables the maintenance of better sense of text, and it gives us the restricted navigation paths. And moving on to the web, it has the poorer maintenance of sense of context, because we have mainly the single page entities. Then interaction. Interaction using GUI, it is clicking which kind of choice we are doing, pressing buttons, selecting any kind of list choice, doing cut, copy, paste. Then it is interaction is using single click, double click. We will be moving on to the next page. Then response time, it is nearly instantaneous, and it is depending upon the quality of internet, transmission speed, the time varies. Then visual styles, typically it is prescribed and constrained by the toolkit, and it fosters to be more artistic. It depends from person to person. Then system capability, the unlimited capability proportional, it is depending upon the kind of hardware and software that we are using, and it is limited by the constraint by the hardware, browser, softwares, and the controls that our browser is providing. Then next is printed page versus web page. Page size. What is the page size? Printed page, they are generally larger than our web counterparts. They are also fixed in size, not variable like web pages. Then page rendering. Printed page, they are immensely superior to web pages in rendering, whereas printed pages, they are presented to complete the entities, their entire contents, they are available for reading or reviewing immediately upon the appearance. Then page layout. With the printed page, the layout is very precise, with much attention it is given to it. With web pages, layout is more of an approximation, being negatively influenced by deficiencies in design toolkit. Then page resolution. Today the resolution of displayed print characters, it still exceeds that of the screen characters, and screen reading is still lower than the reading from the document. Then moving on to the user focus. Printed page, it presents the people with entire set of information. Web pages, it present people with individual snapshot of information, often with few clues as to the structure, sequence. Then page navigation. Navigating the printed material, it is as simple as page turning. Navigation the web, it requires decisions that are being concerned, that should be followed. Then page independence, because when we are moving from one page to another, it is very much easy in kind of web pages. So almost any page in a site, it can be accessed from anywhere else, and the pages, they can be made freestanding. Then interactivity. Interactivity means printed pages, their design involves letting the eyes traverse the static information, selectively looking at information and using the spatial combinations to make page elements to enhance and to explain each other. Then sense of place. With paper documents, we derive a sense of where we are through a mixture of graphic and editorial organization, the size cues supplied by the design of the document. Then the merging of graphical business systems and the web. Another strength of web, it lies in its ability to link database and processing occurring on a variety of machines within a company or organization. Within a closed system, queries against database can be made, internal communication performed, and information that is useful for employees, it can be made available. Current systems that they can be also made implemented more traditional GUI interfaces. The graphical business system and the web, it will merge onto a common entity, and these web systems we can sometimes call them intranets. Then are the characteristics of intranet versus internet. An intranet, it has many of the same characteristics as an internet. They differ, however, in some important ways. The following discussion is partly lies between users, task, type of information, amount of information, hardware, software, and design philosophy. Extranet, it is a special set of intranet web pages that can be accessed from outside an organization or company. The examples that include for letting customers check on order status or letting suppliers view request for proposals. Extranet, it is a blend of the public internet and intranet, and its design should reflect this. Then moving on to the principle of user interface design. An interface, it should be an extension of a person. That means the system and the software, it must reflect a person capability and its response for requiring any kind of need. It should be very useful for some particular application in some particular business, and it should give us the it should fasten the service, and it should be more efficient. It should be very easy to learn, and then finally the system should be fun to use. It should evoking a sense of pleasure. It should have some meaningful impact in we can say. The interface itself, it should serve as both as a connector and a separator. Connector means it ties the user to the power of the computer, and a separator means it minimizes the possibility of participants that are damaging one another. Then if they are caused some damage, it tends to the physical, the damage caused by the computer, it is more psychological. Throughout the history of human computer interface, various researchers and writers, they have attempted to define a set of general principles. What follows, it is a compilation of these principles. They reflect not only what we know today, and many they are based on research, others they are collective thinking of behavior working on user interface. Then principle for Xerox star, it was the illusion of manipulable objects, visual order and viewer focus, revealed structure, consistency, appropriate effect or emotional impact, a match with the medium. The basic general principles are the design goals in creating a user interface. They are described below. They are fundamental to the design and implementation of effective interfaces, including GUI and web. The compilation is concerned alphabetically, and the ordering is not intended to imply degree of importance, and they are derived from various principles that are being given by various presenters, Galtes, IBM, Mayo, Microsoft, Open Source Foundation, Verlan. They are very pleasing. They provide us the visual appeal by following these presentation and graphics design principle, means they provide us the meaningful contrast between screen elements. They create groupings, they align screen elements, they provide three-dimensional representation. We use colors and graphics effectively and simply. They give us a very clear view. They are very compatible. They have very comprehensible. They have very configurable. They give us the very consistent look. They are very controllable. They give us the directness view. They are very efficient. Then they give us very familiar kind of view, and they give us very flexible. They have forgiveness feature. They have predictability. They are very simple. They are very transparent. There are some trade-offs, means final design, it will be based on the series of trade-offs that are balancing between all these features. So the people requirements always take precedence over technical requirements. So this was all about a comparison done between GUI and web interface. Thank you very much.